Good morning, all. Just checking in on a few board members.
Good morning, team.
Um, Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Right.
I just got messages. Two board members will be on in 1 minute. Just they're logging on, and thank you, Mr. Walker. I see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Finance Chair, Ms. Oliver, is joining right now. She's trying to log in right now. Just give one more second. Having technical issues. Good morning. I see Finance Chair Oliver has joined and Chairman Reger. We have Ms. Escribano and Board Member Walker as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I
Morning.
apologize that I'm running a little behind, but I think we are ready to go. So with that, good morning, and let me put on mic. my video for just a little bit here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Oliver. I am the chair of the Finance and Audit Committee for Hartford Public Schools. I'd like to welcome you this morning to the committee. I see several of my colleagues, as Ms. Santiago has noted. I see Mr. Walker, Ms. Escribano, Chairman Rigger. So thank you all for joining this morning. Looking at the agenda, we have several contracts to review this morning. I would like to go ahead and have us start and bring this meeting to begin with item 1.01, which is the contract renewal for Frontline.
You,
And I'll hand it over to whoever is presenting.
And on the call today, we have Ms. Connie Nieves, so I will let her introduce herself and then review the contract. And here it is. Ms. Nieves, I'll be screen sharing the summary so you can go through it.
Thank you, Ms. Santiago. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Connie Nieves. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources for the Office of Talent Management on behalf of Dr. Curtis, who could not be here with us today. Today, I will be discussing our contract renewal request for Frontline Technologies Group for the amount of $113,328.05 for the 23-24 school year. The funding source for the contract would come from ARP and Title II. More specifically, ARP, that amount would be $94,422.93. And from Title II, $18,905.12. The Office of Talent Management uses the Frontline platform for absence and time solutions and Frontline Central. It's the sole, we use that exclusively for time and attendance and onboarding. So the absence and time solution is the software used to track and manage attendance for district users. Our office uses the system to pull various reports to keep the integrity of our data as it relates to attendance. Employees can also view their sick, vacation, personal time balances, as well as recording their scheduled absences in Frontline. Additionally, the platform is used by all of our substitute teachers to select job assignments throughout the year. Frontline Central is the software used for onboarding all employees to the district. I will note that as of November 1st of this year, the district is using Nimble, which is our applicant tracking system, to onboard all employees. So due to this change, only $18,487.61 was billed to Hartford Public Schools, which covered onboarding from July 1st through October 31st. Are there any questions?
Any questions to my board colleagues?
No.
Okay. Heard another voice, Ms. Escribano?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Just really quickly, a question I have is, I know that we're utilizing, or the request is to utilize, I believe you said the ARPA dollars for this year. So then it's the plan for general fund dollars to pick this up in subsequent years?
I'm not sure at this time what that would look like for the next year or following.
It would have to be GB, Ms. Oliver.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you for presenting, and we are ready to move on to our next agenda item. Thank you. We are going to go to updates and reports, item 2.01, and again, I'll hand it off to whoever is presenting.
That would
Good
be
morning. That would be me. and I will walk you through our financial reports. Now, this is through the end of September. And so what you can see, I won't read the whole memo to you, but I'll just highlight the key pieces. As of that point in the school year, as of the end of September, I should say, so that really rounds out the first quarter of the year. Total expenditures had reached $50.5 million. It's a little bit less than where we were at the same time last year when we were at $55.2 million in spending. Although the difference is not, it's largely around timing of billing. And so we're not actually spending less necessarily than we were last year. It's really around the timing of the billing. And then you can also see our encumbrances increased by roughly 25 million. So from the last finance committee, when I shared the financial report through the end of August, you'll notice the expenses and the encumbrances are up a lot. That's simply a reflection of the fact that the school year started. And so salaries and benefits have started to hit relative to our 10-month employees. The one thing I want to highlight on the most important thing, I suppose, to highlight in our monthly financial report is that, as you'll recall, our 23-24 budget was built with two things embedded in it. One was an assumption of a 6% vacancy rate. As you know, we've been struggling to fill positions. And so part of how we achieved balance in our budget was acknowledging that we would have some savings by continuing to have vacant positions. We also included in the 23-24 budget what we called a budget problem of $2 million that we would solve over the course of the year, meaning that over the course of the 23-24 year, we would find funding to cover an additional $2 million that was built into the budget. So I just want to flag for you that as of the time of this report, our vacancy rate was actually at 6.5%, so only just above that 6% that was built into our budget. So I just want to highlight that for you because that does present a risk for us. It's something that from the perspective of our schools is great, right? The fact that our vacancy rate is down significantly, that we've been able to fill positions. From a budgetary standpoint, we have to keep a close eye on that. And we are talking about what steps we need to take to make sure we don't end this school year with a deficit if that vacancy rate falls below the 6% assumption that was built into the budget. And, one of the things we're doing on that front is we're going to be really focused with our departments and our schools on ensuring spending happens in a timely way so that we can identify funding that is not needed. And so we'll be doing what we call budget sweeps over the course of the year, where if money that was supposed to be spent by a certain point in the year hasn't been spent, we're going to pull that back into a contingency to cover an anticipated deficit resulting from the improvement in our vacancy rate. So that's really the monthly update. And then if we go a few pages further on, you have all the backup behind the memo with the all funds, the general funds, and the special fund expenditures. The COVID relief grant spending, where we are on that, pleased to report that as of the end of September, we had fully expended ESSER 1, ESSER 2. So that was a concern, right? Just making sure we use the resources we had available to us. You see that we ended September with $539 remaining in ESSER 2. So we're feeling pleased about that. And actually, you see in the memo that compared to sort of national trends, our expenditure of our COVID relief funding is a little bit ahead of the pace nationally for school districts, meaning we've been diligent in working to use the resources that have been provided to us. Where that leaves us is we have a little more than 50 million remaining in the ARP ESSER 3. Some of the contracts in front of you this morning are using those resources, just like the frontline one we just talked about. Our goal remains to fully expend the deadline for expending ARP and ESSER 3 is September 30th, 2024. Our internal plan is to have that expended by June 30th of 2024, but we may have some spending that goes in that window between June and September. And then behind the memo, you do also have the backup, which just gives you detailed expenditures for both the ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and the ARP ESSER 3 grants. And that is the monthly report. I will share quickly as by way of update on budget. We've started having conversations around budget. We have had a conversation with union leadership. We had our SGC budget overview last week. We're having a conversation this week with all of our principals at their leadership institute. So some of the work of engaging with various stakeholder groups around the 24-25 budget has commenced. And I do believe we will also, I know in the last finance committee meeting, there was some discussion about additional opportunities for board engagement around budget. And We always have used the January workshop meeting of the board for budget, but I think we're going to use the December workshop meeting as well. The superintendent and I spoke about that last week. So that'll be an additional opportunity to engage in some conversation with the board around budget for 24-25. And that concludes the monthly financial report.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Foster. Any questions to my colleagues? Mr. Walker.
Yeah, more of a comment. Mr. Foster, the budget, the backup data. I think it'd be helpful in that all funds budget, that financial position. You provide kind of the expenditure to date. What would be helpful is to see against plan. I can't tell if I'm looking at the numbers to be concerned, not concerned, because either we're on plan or off plan. If we're on plan, then rationally I shouldn't be concerned at this point. Or I'm just not looking at it close enough. That's all I would have to add to this. I like the adopted, I like the adjusted. The expenditures make sense. Is there another column that would be, here's what we thought we'd be spending or what the plan was to this date?
So just if I can ask a clarifying question, I hear you. Would that be a column that is a percentage of budget expended? Or
well, I'm not trying to solve it for you, but most people, if they have a budget, there's usually some kind of spend profile for that budget. You know, most budgets, we've adopted it in these line items. Somebody from accounting knows each month I'm expecting to spend a certain percentage of a particular line item or a particular category. I don't know that, and I'm not sure how your accounting team would want to reflect it. But
yeah, I mean, I'll certainly take that back to the finance team. I don't believe we do a month-to-month budget, and the vast majority of our expenses are, you know, there's a little bit in July and August, but the vast majority of our expenses are going to be roughly 1/10 for the 10 months of the school year.
And that's kind of what I'd be looking for. So in terms of that education piece, what you just said is a spend profile. And so I'm not trying to get super granular with it, but like you're saying, if I look at a line item, there's a way in which that's going to be spent. A little bit here, a lot here, it rolls off here, and it kind of tapers off there. So as a person looking at it, then I could kind of see, oh, okay, they're on plan. No need to worry. This little off, maybe I have a question about it because it's a little bit off. And then you may talk about, oh, yeah, it's a little off for this reason, but we can get back on track because of X, Y, and Z. You know, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know quite how to reflect it in here. But yeah, you get what if you understand what I'm saying, I'd leave it to the finance team to figure out how they want to present it. It can be a percentage, or just maybe a dollar amount that says, we thought we'd spend a certain dollar amount by this month on certain line items, but we just don't.
Is it more than what's in the narrative, Mr. Walker?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the narrative is super high level. What I'm saying, on all these lines, somebody's knowing, like if I budgeted so much for that MHIS services, it's because I think over the course of the year, that's all I need, right? On how we think we're going to need and use those services. And so some stuff may be like salaries is on the expenditure plan. It's really easy to tell someone plan. Some budget items may be as needed, or it may be based on historical precedents. We usually spend this much every year, and we usually go through a third of it by the end of the first quarter. We go through half of it by the end of, you get what I'm saying? There's some kind of spend profile on a lot of these items based on your historical knowledge.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead, have the Deputy Superintendent go back to the finance team, figure out a way to do this one. I recognize there's a complexity here because of the schools and the way the school leadership works here. So we don't have the spend down rates for everyone. But why don't we give the team an opportunity to figure something out and come back to us with a recommendation on that request?
I would agree with what the chairperson said.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Walker, any other questions for you?
No. Otherwise, I think it's a okay detailed explanation about the spend so far.
Thank you. I'm just going to check in with Chairman Rigger and also with Ms. Escribano. Any questions?
No questions for me.
No questions for me either.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize. I'm just trying to double check. Oh, Ms. Brody, just checking in. Any questions from you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. Just really quick as a reminder for me for our lapsing account that we have to utilize all of our funds in the lapsing account to reconcile our budget for last school year. I just can't remember that offhand.
We did. We had 5.6 million in the non-lapsing. We accessed, the city council approved the use of all of that to balance the 22-23. I will also add, however, that in that same resolution, the council also voted to replenish the non-lapsing account to the 5.6 million. So to our understanding, the city council has also replenished that fund.
Okay, so our understanding is this is 5.6 million approximately that's back in the non-lapsing account. Okay,
Yes.
That's great. The only other thing, Ms. Santiago, as a note for next month, let's put as part of the updates and reports and just do a separate line item for the budget process. Even though I know we're having a workshop, just to have an opportunity for there to be an official agenda item, so that the public is aware. Moving on to our next item, 2.02 follow-up items. I'll go ahead and hand that back over perhaps to Deputy Superintendent Blosser. I don't know what the follow-up items are.
I think you may have covered them. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think when I shared about the budget, that was
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, no problem. So next month, let's go ahead and, like I said, do budget development process like its own item. And then if we're follow-ups, we can go ahead and do that. Thank you. All right. So now we're moving to the third section of our agenda. These are contracts that have been presented in previous committees. We are still going to go through them. To our colleagues and to the public, just wanting to recognize that these conversations have already been started and presented. And of course, we are now here in the Finance Committee meeting, doing our due diligence from a financial perspective. So with that, I now hand it over for our first contract, agenda item 3.01.
Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna step in my Chief Academic Officer temporary hat here for Partners in Educational Leadership. This is a contract in the amount of $112,000, $250,000, and it is, in essence, our commitment in one of the must-win areas to continue to fortify our pipeline work, and specifically to develop a principal pipeline program with not only just the structure, but also the curriculum that will allow current HPS staff that already have the 092 Connecticut Administrator Certification to develop into strong, highly effective instructional leaders. There are key objectives, and I'll quickly review them. I mentioned the program structure and curriculum that's going to be developed and that we at Hartford Public Schools will own moving forward. It is also to develop the internal capacity of our staff to facilitate and deliver these pipeline programs in the future. We're aiming to have at least 10 graduates that will have a deep understanding of our context here in Hartford Public Schools. And of course, building the knowledge base, the skill set, and even improving the disposition of future leaders in our system. The funding for this is through ARP, ESSER, and we anticipate that moving forward, if there is going to be a cost to continue to have these programs, it would be the coaching aspect. Currently, there is a coaching element to this. Moving forward, we would have to identify internal capacity for coaching, which we believe can happen. I'll pause there. I know that you talked about focusing on the financials, so I'll pause there.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions from my colleagues?
I have one.
Okay, floor is yours, Ms. Brody.
What funds have we already allocated to something just as this or this renewal?
This is new for this group of leaders.
For this contractor?
I'm not sure I understand it. Do we have this contract already in place, and is it a continuation?
Correct.
This is a new contract.
Okay, so what other, because I know this is not new, this work. So were we not successful with the last contractor, or because if they're new?
The last contractor to do pipeline program?
Yeah, I remember it was another conversation previously about this same work. So are we saying that we've never done this before and this is new? Not new with this contractor, because now, you clarified that we've never contracted with them, but this work and funding this work.
We had a partnership previously. It was a partnership that was in place before I arrived and continued for, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years with the Wallace Foundation that did some pipeline work. This is something that is internal that we will be able to own moving forward. It is a somewhat of a different design. If I recall, last time it required folks to have a residency component, which had a deeper reliance on our budget, where folks would get paid to be a resident principal. This does not have that type of element.
Okay, so at the board meeting, will you be prepared to speak to where we were and where you're looking to go? Because I remember one of the specific questions I asked is if it's someone who had an 092 but didn't specifically have time to be a part of certain programming, but they were pursuing, being developed outside of what we were doing, would they be outside this process, not a preferred candidate, so to speak? So because we're introducing this, the work is not new, and I'm hoping at the board meeting you can speak to make it all relevant, because we've done pipeline work before. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Superintendent, did you need to respond, or?
I think I'm going to seek further clarification. I can reach out to Ms. Brody to get further clarification as to the question.
Okay. All right. So we'll do a follow-up via email just to be clear, to make sure Ms. Brody has her information. Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Superintendent, I believe you're saying this is a one-off effort, right? It looks like we're designing a training program, maybe delivering this training program for this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then my follow-up question, I think Board Member Brody already talked about, which is, and I'll look back through some teaching and learning information, but to see what was before would be helpful. What I want to ask though is, if we're doing this effort, can we really track what's happening with the bench, and really see if that drives some improvement? Your target audience are people currently working for the district, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The anecdotal rub I get in this space, so this is, I guess, my soapbox moment, right, is there are people who are in the district who get an 092, and I certainly don't run OTM. You make your own leadership decisions, but they don't get selected for certain positions, and that's okay. But then as a district, we do a percentage of out of district hiring. So we bring in people who, in essence, don't go through any of this kind of training to hold positions. And so I'm trying to wrestle with, here we're saying it's really important to build our own bench strength so that our people know our way of doing it. So that's why I want to track what happens. The value of this is that those people really get moved up in the district and deliver value to the district. Our pattern right now of hiring from the outside would kind of make me question financially, like, what's the value of this if it doesn't drive that behavior? I mean, so it's a comment, but I'm also saying, I mean, I'm asking you, the outside hiring, I guess the question is, the hiring from the outside, is that just a reflection that we don't have the talent in the district and that somehow we're trying to develop it? Or is that what this is trying to get at?
This is trying to get at a deeper bench.
Okay.
And when we at times hire, we are also not only just looking at the skill set and the knowledge base and the disposition, but we also look at specific programming as well. And so we want to make sure that we have a bench that kind of covers across all grade level areas and different departments, for example, right? So elementary, middle, high school. And when we post, and OTM can speak to this, we're not always sure that we're going to get someone that is skilled or knowledgeable in the specific grade level area, as an example, Mr. Walker.
Okay. If I have a follow-up question, Chair, I guess, and maybe comment, then let me put a request or expectation here then that in addition to this developing the bench, that your team engage in some type of like leadership development profiling. Because I think what disappoints me is to have anyone tell me they're working for the district, obviously getting good reviews because they're working for us. They get an 092. In fact, you get an 092 doesn't mean that you're wonderful on everything. So clearly you can get an 092 and be rejected for a certain role. What's disappointing is when an 092 leaves the district, that in essence, even though a person doesn't get a particular role, there isn't a follow-up that says, but you know what, you may have some talents here, there, the other thing. We're committed to trying to find ways to use our 092s and slot them in areas where they can deliver the greatest value for the district. You know, give them some path forward because they've invested in the district, they've gotten this 092, and to let it leave is to almost give other districts our cream of the crop because we couldn't in a moment or an instance find a way for them. So what I'm kind of saying would be great to have out of this kind of program too, is some way to both track these folks and see where their leadership directions may be of value to the district. But even though it may not be where they want to go, but they're offered opportunities to use that skill somewhere where they deliver value for us and not go elsewhere and get hired to deliver value from some other district. Does that make sense, Chief? Because I mean, Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I just want to make sure we have time for other contracts. So you're getting a little off of the finance, but I understand you're
but it's important.
Yeah.
I know, but here's what I want to say though: the value of this contract is that it builds a bench. That is the financial value of it. And all that I'm saying is, if we just stop at training them and say, okay, here's a certificate, that's good. What I also want at that point is for them to get in some kind of like leadership dashboard, some kind of radar where in the district, people know who your 092s are, who your stars are, who's gone through this training. So I'm just saying, if I'm going to pay for it, and we can pay for it financially, it's got to deliver the value. And all I'm saying is the value for us is that people who graduate from this kind of program should be on our radar as our rising stars, and we should put a high priority on not losing them. That is not off the topic. That is exactly the value that this should be delivering for the district.
Correct. So to be clear, I'm not saying you're off topic. What I'm saying from a financial perspective, given the time for the other contracts, I just want to make sure we have enough time.
Fair point.
What I will say is it probably would be helpful. I know there's some information here attached that did go through some of this. We did ask some questions about what's a 092 and what's the additional pieces that are given a bit to the leadership dashboard. But I do want to underscore the piece that you said about the actual data and tracking, because that's how I actually know if we have return on investment, which I think is a critical piece that I do think, like I said, is pretty critical here. So thank you, Mr. Walker. I didn't mean to cut you off, but thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other questions for this item? All right, thank you. Let's continue on to the next contract. That's 3.02, revision learning. Whoever is going to present, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Corinne Barney, Chief of Schools and Innovation. Nice to see everybody. So the contract up is revision learning. It is for a total of $297,000 split between two schools. McDonough is their contract is for $162,000 and Hartford High is for $135,000. As a reminder to everybody, this is a part of the Commissioners Network. Both schools work in collaboration with the state around approved funds and approved usage of the funds. So this contract was also approved by the state of Connecticut to support both schools with leadership coaching, with revision learning, as well as to develop high quality instructional practices through coaching supports for the instructional leadership team, the principals and assistant principals, reviewing of data on a regular basis, going into classrooms and observing lessons, and providing ongoing feedback in order to improve instructional practices and ensure rigor across all of our Tier 1 curriculum. This is the second year for McDonough in this contract, and it would be year 4 for Hartford High.
Thank you. Oops, thank you. Any questions to my colleagues? I'm looking for hands raised and I do not see any. I'll take another moment. All right, thank you for that presentation. We're going to go on to the next contract. Contract 3.03 for extended school hours. Whoever is going to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The extended school hours contract or funds is through the State Department of Education. It's available to Alliance and Priority School Districts to provide extended school hours for academic enrichment and support for recreation programs during non-school hours. Excuse me. This was done through an RFP process in collaboration with the procurement office through the city of Hartford. And so it's listed here. We received a total amount of $272,000 that has been divvied up across respondents to the RFP. I do believe there's a full listing of all that applied for the RFP, but the two organizations that we are bringing for contract approval are the Village for Families and Children and Catholic Charities, and the breakdown of the dollar amount per school. And so the dollar amount per school does bring them over the threshold as prescribed by the board through policy. And so each school, Rawson, Sand, MD Fox, is $27,000 each to provide those extended school hour programming. And with Catholic Charities, the schools listed under that organization is Parkville, McDonough, and Milner. And Ms. Hooker, I don't know if you would like to add anything else there as it relates to the financial portion for the extended school hours contract.
No, I think at this time that is specific to what we're bringing to the board.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of my colleagues? Ms. Brody.
So this is elementary school. Nope, I see a middle school. This is only elementary and middle school. Focus.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes, go ahead. You can respond, Chief Blackburn. Thank you.
Thank you. So this was open to organizations. They could apply for the extended school hours funding to support any of our Hartford Public Schools within our district. So some schools, some agencies that were applying, they would look to work with our high schools as well, but these are the particular schools that are listed for contract approval. And Ms. Santiago, I do believe there's a listing of all the agencies that did apply in the schools. Okay, thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Brody.
Yeah, just interesting that we've approved probably over $1 million. I know for the village, and I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around things that we actually think we're getting from a agency. This definitely grounds that, right? What we don't get, that we're, still, extending more money, and we're like millions into funding some of these organizations. But thank you, Ms. Oliver.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Any other questions? I have one question myself. I don't see any others. But one question, and perhaps Chief Blackburn, you can respond to this. Could you speak to, and I'm not sure if this is where Ms. Brody was going, but one of the things I was thinking myself that would be helpful to speak to, how either this is different or intersects or supports the community schoolwork, because these two are lead agencies. So I thought it might be helpful to better understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. I am going to ask Ms. Hooker if she wants to talk about some of the ways it does intersect quickly. I know, unless you want us to get back to you with that question, because I know we're trying to keep it to financial. So you'll let me know how you want us to.
Well, I think that to Ms. Brody's point, like we've invested a good amount of dollars, and so more so, maybe not so much in the specifics of program. We could always follow that up to your point. More so, just as are these dollars allowing us to serve more children, to do deeper service? So more of that kind of and more of, I guess, a high level general response.
So I will go ahead and say that yes, it does allow the agencies listed here across these schools to add to existing programming and to also expand and serve additional students. So that is one way that the community schools work, along with other funding sources, does intersect. So they are able to do more and add additional services to existing programs, and then also to do some innovative work with some new programs.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn. Ms. Brody, I see your hand up.
And I'll save my other questions. It's financial, but it will lead into the discussion on the delivery. So I'll save it for the board meeting, because it will definitely go that route.
Thanks, Ms. Brody. And for all of us, for any other questions too, please know, obviously we can ask questions before the board meeting, but obviously at the board meeting as well. So just, I want to acknowledge that we are keeping it to as much as we can, a financial perspective this morning, but of course, as board members, we have the ability to ask questions, and I want to make sure I'm supportive of that. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, what I would say, Chair, because I know you've targeted on the financial. I think, though, if we're talking about finance too, that we need to look at it both qualitatively and quantitatively. That, practically speaking, there's nothing from a number standpoint that I want to talk to for this one. I am not, financially, it doesn't matter, can we afford it or not afford it. So there has to be some value proposition as to, that's all I would say, that that part of that finance piece you're getting at is looking at the qualitative value of what are we actually paying for. Now, I would ask Chief Blackburn outside of this meeting to maybe, and I'm okay to talk offline to get a little more educated in terms of figuring out how we can get at the value to students of the program from the academic standpoint, because I guess Chief Blackburn, one of the things we talked about before is attending this is voluntary. So it's not like a student's going to attend the same day every day or somehow have a very regimented engagement with this program, right? So my sense of it is it's kind of hard to give a very quantitative number of how this academically values down to a student. I'm wondering if I could talk and understand from you a way to understand how to capture, at least qualitatively, how this benefits the student by populations or something to get at that idea of the value this kind of program brings.
Chief Blackburn, any response, or are you all set?
No, I believe Mr. Walker was stating that he would like to have that conversation at a future time. And so I will ask, with Christina's help, just to codify exactly what was asked and then have that ready for future discussion, unless I capture that incorrectly, Mr. Walker.
That's correct. Because I'm not trying to, I do respect what board member Chairman Oliver is saying. We can't dive into everything here in the Finance Committee meeting, but I was acknowledging that we always get into a rut with these types of contracts because it's really hard to quantify the academic advancement or enrichment for students, because it's unclear how many students come and how many days they come and whatnot. So you can't put a hard number on it. So I was saying, can we find a way to figure out more from a more population standpoint, how these kind of programs value, are enriching to students? And so that conversation I'd want to have with you offline, because I don't think it's valuable to try to get to all of that here at this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And so we'll take that back. Myself and Ms. Hooker will provide a response to Ms. Santiago as far as what is the attendance structure, how is it evaluated based on student choice, and get back to you with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And Chairperson Oliver, thank you for letting me have that moment about looking at qualitative value for these things.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Great. And I recognize, by the way, I want to say these are going through committee. Not all of us are on the committees, and so some of us have to catch up. So I want to acknowledge that. And it is a lot of information. So definitely appreciate opportunities for folks to provide additional information and conversation. Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item. And we're now on 3.04, Adult Education CEE grants. To whoever who is presenting, please do so. Thank you.
We have Dr. Gordon on the call. Thank you for joining. Dr. Gordon, if you don't mind giving a brief overview, and then we'll just go over the financials. Thank you. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Good morning. Local districts are required by law to provide education for students who are 18 and over. So in Hartford, this is done through the Adult Education Center. We also have 2 CEEs, Literacy Volunteers of Greater Hartford, and also Urban League, who go through our Board of Education or district office in order to obtain funding. Normally, it is given on a sliding scale, so it depends on the poverty level of the district. We are very fortunate in that the amount we get from the state is 65%, and the district is required to give the rest of the money. So I would like to ask that the district, the state has already determined that they will give our money for this school year. I'm asking the board to accept the money on our behalf.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any questions for Dr. Gordon? Yeah, I'm just double checking.
I can't get to my raised hand.
Oh,
quick
go ahead. Yes, Ms. Brody, go ahead.
We do this year in and year out. Ms. Oliver, you know, we've seen this, but it seems like we're not connected to this, but we accept the money for it. Could someone explain our role and our due diligence around it, or is there none, from my understanding?
I'll leave that to Dr. Gordon to respond.
So this is just seen as one of the district schools that is supervised by our district office. My supervisor is Ms. Niles. She is the acting assistant superintendent, and she supervises the work that I do. So we are directly connected like any other K-12 school to the district and is supervised by the district.
So with that,
I hope I answered your question.
thank you. Yes, did. Thank you. So through you, Madam Chair, I don't know that we've had any presentation as of recent around adult education. I remember when we were rolling out the district model of excellence, we talked about moving and space for them now. Because I've been attending the Police Citizens Academy on Wednesday evenings. So I see the students, you know, coming and going on Wednesday evening when I'm over at, you know, the global campus over there. But as far as like us really knowing and more about this population, that would be great, because it just seems like it comes up when we have to accept money for them, which we're glad to do to continue the work. But as far as the programming and knowing the successes and their challenges and how I maybe it's a meeting I missed, but I'm totally disconnected from the work we do around adult education.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Yeah, I think it's been some time, meaning years, since we've talked about adult education. So Ms. Santiago, if you can use that as a follow-up and to bring that item up in the appropriate manner, and then I would say communicate to all of the board members where that would be discussed. So for example, if it is going to decide that is best in teaching and learning, to make sure that invite is to all board members, et cetera. Thank you, Ms. Brody. Any other questions? I do not see any. Oh, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Gordon, since we're talking about the school, one, are we able to visit your school?
As a district school, member of the district community of schools, my doors are open. I wish you would visit us. We would be proud to have you. Some members of the board have visited or come to our graduation. And we are very happy when they do that. You can come in at any time. Our doors are open. We provide ESL program, GED program, Spanish GED, English GED. Now we have just started to do a CDP program. Our graduation rate continues to improve. We would like to look at the facility, however, because we are outgrowing the space that we are in. So that's a very crucial area for us, because, you know, 30% of the people who are 18 and over in our district, they do not have a high school credential. That's important. And 15% don't speak English well. So we have a very important role to play, and I welcome the support of the board anytime.
Chair, if I can have a follow-up question.
Okay, sure.
Dr. Gordon, two things you mentioned. I was going to ask you about the this National External Diploma Program. You talked about something called a CEP. What would that be?
That's for students who they're overaged and they don't have enough credits to graduate. So we have just started a program that will take care of students like that. They want to finish with credits. They need to have 25 credits. They might only have 15 and they are 19, going 20, that kind of stuff. We also have a National External Diploma Program, and this program is mainly online. They have supervisors. This program is for people who have jobs and can't come into class every day. I would be more than happy to meet with you to talk about the different programs and how we are progressing. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our final agenda item, 3.05, Urban League of Greater Hartford. To whoever's presenting, thanks.
Thank you. We have Mr. Jackson on the call. Oh, I heard someone, sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
I was about to, oh, okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Gordon, I'm sorry.
Well, I was presenting the budget on behalf of Greater Hartford, but I don't know if they have something else they'd like to say. So the board accepts the finances from the state on behalf of the Adult Education Program, Urban League of Greater Hartford, and Art Literacy Volunteers of Greater Hartford. So I was presenting on behalf of all three.
Yes, thank you. And so we are moving on to the next item, and that agenda item for adult ed is now being moved forth to regular meeting. So thank you, Dr. Gordon.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you. All right, 3.05, I think, Ms.
Yes, the different Urban League. We have Ms. Tremblay Jackson on the call, as well as Ms. Elizabeth Nieves.
Good morning, board members. I'm going to briefly let you know that the Urban League was the community partner that was strongly suggested by the early education state people that gave us this grant over 2 years. It's federal money that they, as a state entity, were able to get for the state for all pregnant and parenting teens, particularly the districts that are most at risk and have a larger percentage of pregnant and parenting teens, Hartford being one. Then they turned around then and divided the money between each of the cities that have a larger percentage of pregnant and parenting teens. And we received our money and our portion thereof that should be subdivided to the Urban League in order for them to facilitate a voucher program similar to the voucher program that was done years ago for flood and disaster victims, so that we can get items that we do not normally have, vetted. What do we call that? Through our finances, we do not normally obtain pack and plays, cribs, car seats, maternity clothes, things of that nature that our pregnant and parenting teens require in order to be able to continue school comfortably. So that is what this money is for.
Thank you. Any questions to my colleagues?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Brody.
So do we say have the money, spend it well? What's the oversight?
No, ma'am, obviously not. No. It's a voucher program. So that means that we have the pregnant and parenting teens in our schools. Ms. Nieves, who's on the call, is our social worker who's working very closely with the pregnant and parenting teens. She was hired to do this kind of work, she and another. and they would work with the teens to know what they require and need. They put together a request, they send it to the Urban League. The Urban League then does the shopping, we'll say, gets the items, has a receipt, and then once we know that the young person has the items and we have the receipt, we rectify that on a monthly basis between the program and our finances.
Thank you. Any other question, Ms. Brody?
Is there a like a budget, or I don't know, because I'm looking at the document that's in like board docs, and are we saying that we don't have the staff to do, because are we just paying Urban League to do shopping for us? I guess I don't have a full picture of well, I guess I'll just stay specific to this outside, because I know I'm not trying to get lost, Madam Chair, into drafting in some other area, but is this something we cannot do? Because I'm sure if the contract amount is 90,000, that is Urban League saying they're doing this for no fee, or I'm just trying to understand why we need them to do this.
Yes, they're doing it with no fee. They are able to continue working with our young people afterwards. That's why the early childhood intervention people deliberately picked the Urban League, because of some of the other programming they have to help people with housing as they get older and other resources. And then also the Urban League has the ability to do some of this shopping and has vendors that they can go to that we cannot go to as a school system. We don't have vendors for maternity clothes, sneakers, things like that. We have a very, our system for how we are able to purchase items that are required for our teens is not set up for these kinds of items.
Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Brody?
I do, but I digress. I see another board member hand is raised.
All right, we'll go to Mr. Walker, and then I can come back to you if you still have questions. Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I think the comment as I'm listening to this is, and I'll certainly bring it up at family community engagement as well, but to get a better sense of the contours of the overall program, because my first question was definitely going to be not questioning the money here, but about the participants. It would be imperative, as I'm looking at this grant, that the participants be in, as I'm understanding it, that they be in Hartford Public School and that they be in some type of young teen support or parenting program as part of the high school. Is that the understanding? Because you'd have to be in it for this to make any sense.
Correct.
Okay. And I understand what you're saying from a bureaucratic standpoint, the district can't do it. So, and I like the Urban League's involvement, but within that program, I guess the way that I would kind of question too is, if they're in the program and what the young person needs is authenticated and whatnot, with the voucher not go to the teen or their family to make these purchases, or that just not considered to be effective, and having a third party do it is the best approach? I guess I'm saying, practically speaking, is it best to provide the teen the item and not the money? Is that what this program is trying to get at?
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what's happening, is we have to guarantee that they receive the items that were approved on the voucher. So it's not, they're not given the voucher directly. The voucher goes to the Urban League. The purchases are made along with the young person so that they get the items that were approved.
All right. So quick follow-up, and maybe this makes it all make a little more sense. So this grant is really directed towards the supplying of these items, or these types of items in particular, to this population of persons.
Correct.
Okay, so it only works if they get the items. It's not a cash transfer to the participants.
Correct.
Okay, so this is just to assure that we can comply with the intent of the grant.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And last year we served 54 pregnant and parenting teens in the program because we have the social workers and the nursing that supports the young people in our system. And we're only working with Hartford residents who are in Hartford schools that require support because they're pregnant or parenting. So it does work with young men as well who are parenting. It doesn't have to be just young ladies who are pregnant and parenting.
Right. Thank you for that. Chair, has ended my question, but Ms. Chimley Jackson has touched on an issue close to me in that beyond this program, beyond this particular contract, but it would feel like we'd have some interest in making sure that these young people find their way, like from this program, and to help them move into a lower risk category in terms of young teens are already high risk in entering the parenting situation. And so this is a good program. And now it makes you wonder, are there other programs that we do or that we should package together to make sure that we really help that young person have the best possible opportunity as they launch into parenthood? That's just, I'll leave it
And
there.
then I can give you a wonderful statistic as well. Let Ms. Nieves tell you how many we managed to assist to ensure that they graduate, which is a major feat because many pregnant and parenting teens do not. So Ms. Nieves, do you want to speak up and explain the success from last year?
Yeah, so just to absolutely 24, I had 24 seniors who graduated, 19 of those 24 seniors. And again, that included, doing post-graduation planning, getting their financial aid paperwork done, looking at post-graduation training opportunities, right? And making sure that they had everything that they need, not just for themselves, but for their children as well. So our program is geared to ensuring that our young moms and dads graduate, right? That they're successful, that they're able to be that example for their babies. We're talking about multi-generational impact when we're doing the work that we do with our program. I'm very passionate about it. Clearly, I'm the social worker, and I believe that, our beautiful and capable students deserve the best, as do their babies. So thank you.
No, I totally appreciate that. I just think that, that so needs to be connected to this to understand, at that point, it makes so much sense. This is one of those things where it makes a little less sense in isolation. It makes a little more sense in the context as we've described it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Ms. Brody. Just want to check in.
Thank you. So two questions. One is the adult education students, are they able to tap into this also?
Yes, they are. We do have participants. We've had participants at Adult Ed as well. So we actually work for the entire district. So any student that is either pregnant or parenting, will get referred to our program, and we would follow up at their home school. So the other caveat to this is that we go to them, right? We don't make them come to a specific office. We go to them, we go to their homes, we meet them where they are. So yeah, Adult Ed is part of it.
Except they have to be, I just want to clarify, they have to meet the young, as in finishing their GED, finishing their high school diploma. So they can't be an older adult ed recipient. They have to be a younger, so it's basically under the age of 22 and still working on their GED or diploma.
Thank you. Second question. Under the stakeholder engagement, because I know of an organization that I know have reached out to me as a board member in, trying to make sure that there's a relationship with Hartford Public Schools to obtain health-related information and supports that's similar in a way in what we're discussing here. I believe I always because it's not Hartford Hospital, so it's Hartford Health Initiative. Shafam Burgess Hamilton, or Hamilton Burgess is her name. And I'm wondering, and that's a smaller organization, right, that works with our young people along a multitude of health initiatives. And I'm just hoping that we don't go always and consider a stakeholder to be these bigger names that are well known and not looping in our homegrown community people that are here really servicing on a smaller scale, but at the same time making an impact. So how would those type of organizations make their way into being a stakeholder, because they are, but recognized by Hartford Public Schools that I am servicing and I'm engaging with young people in at risk around all of these things that we're talking about today. So what would be that approach for them? And will they be welcomed in by us?
You can see that we also, as part of what we've engaged multiple stakeholders, and we do have meetings to try with our stakeholders and to try and enhance the program and add to it at all times. So Christina just pulled up some of our stakeholders engagement that we've done already. We'd be happy to have others join us in our efforts. They can contact either myself or Ms. Nieves.
Okay, so if Ms. Santiago could give me that information, because I know of a couple that definitely needs to be on the list that I'm looking at.
That would be wonderful.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I do not have any questions. So thank you for the presentation. So that is all of our agenda items for today. Of course, is a public meeting, and so these were following public meeting rules per the state of Connecticut. So we have come to an end. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking out the time this morning to attend and also engage with our Finance and Audit Committee for Hartford Public Schools. And hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.